programming. In today's session, we will be continuing our second series of programming with Java. In this second series, what we are going to learn is, we will learn about decision-making statements, looping statements, methods, how to instantiate a class, and finally constructor, right? So these are the agenda of today, and in this we have already learned about decision-making statement and looping statement, right? So I will not go deeper into these two sections. So what I will explain about these two sections in this video is, I will show you how to code these in Java, right? That is, how to develop a decision-making construct and your looping construct using Java. So after that we will learn about methods. Methods are nothing but functions, right? After that we will learn how to instantiate a class, that is, how to create an object for a class, right? Finally we will learn about constructors, right? So let's get started with the decision making statements. So as I told you before, decision making statements available in programming are if block and switch case, right? So inside if block we are having further classification as simple if else if ladder, and nested if, right? So in this we can have a program for demonstrating our if block, right? So just create a new project in NetBeans. So to create a new project, go to your file and click on new project. So it will open a create new project window. So in that, from categories pane select Java, and in project pane select Java application and click on next. So here you can provide the name for your project as well as the location. So when you are done with this, click finish to get your new project, right? So I have already created a new project, so I am going to cancel this, right? So here this is our new project we have created. In this, what we are going to do is, we are going to create a simple Java program using if construct, right? So for that, let's create a variable such as A, B and C, right? So to create a variable in Java, you should use the data type followed by your variable name. So you can combine multiple variables in a single statement with comma, right? So one thing to notice, you should follow the naming conventions of variable, right? So inside a class we have created a variable, right? So other than declaration statement, we should not have any other statement inside a class itself, right? So for example, if I am writing some print statement inside my class itself, so it will result in an error, right? So here it is showing us an error, right? So when I head over this error icon, it is showing like illegal start of type, which means we can have only declaration statement inside a class, right? Which means we can have functions definition. So what we can have directly inside our classes, one is declaration of your variables, after that we can have instantiation of a class, instantiation of classes, as well as functions, right? So these three can come directly inside your class, right? So other than these three statements, you should not have any other statements such as printing or reading an input value from the user. So these kind of statements should not come directly inside your class, but inside your class you can make a function. Inside that function we can have any kind of statement, right? So just be aware of this. So this is important, and when you provide statement for reading an input or printing a statement directly inside your class, it will show you an error like illegal start of type, so which you can't recognize as a beginner, right? So this is the reason for that error, illegal start of type, right? So just remember only declaration, instantiation and function statement can directly come inside your class, right? So here we have created a variables a, b and c, right? So as far as now I didn't told about how to create a function in Java, right? So now we can have our statement inside this main function itself, right? So we are having 3 variables. For that variable I'm going to create a I'm going to read a value from user, right? So to read a value we should create an object for the class scanner, right? This scanner class is available inside the package util, right? So I'm importing the package java.util.scanner, right? So we are importing the class scanner, right? So that we can read a value from the user, right? So import java.util.scanner and create an object for that class, right? Scanner yes is equal to new scanner of, right? So in the previous session itself I have explained about how to read an value from the user, right? So here scanner is a built-in class. For that we have created an user defined object, yes. So this object can be anything, it is up to you, right? After that we have used the new keyword scanner of, right? So as we are going to read an input from user, we are providing system.in, right? So after that we can read the value for variable. Before that just have a print statement like enter value for a, right? So similarly we can copy this statement for C, B and C variables, right? So below this we can read the values for A, B and C, right? So we have 3 variables of type integer, right? As I told you in the previous video itself, Java considers each value as a string, right? Even if you are giving 1, 2, 3 like some integer value, it will consider that integer as a string, right? So that we need to convert any data type to, that is we have to convert the value read from the user to the respective data type, right? So here we want to read the value for a, right? So a is equal to, here we have created an object s for the scanner class. So s dot next int of, right? So what we have done is we have read an input value for the variable a from the user, right? For that we have created the object for a class scanner, right, which is s. So here s is our object, right? Using this object we are going to read a value from user for the variable a, right? So we have to store the value which is provided by the user in a variable a, right? So a is equal to, right? So the variable in which you are going to store a value should come before your assignment operator, which is equal to, that is left hand side of your assignment operator should be a variable for which you are going to store a value, right? So that I am writing it as a is equal to, right? So what I am going to do is I am going to read an input value from the user, right? So here our object of the scanner class is yes dot next int of, right? So why we have called the function next int is Java consider every value as string. So if the user is providing the value for a as 5, Java will consider the value 5 as string itself, right? So to convert the value 5 to integer we have called the function next int of, right? So if you are reading any string value from the user, you can just write it as s dot next of itself, right? So this is about reading a value from user using Java in Java, right? So similarly for other variables b and c, we can copy this statement, right? So now we have three values, one is a, b and c, right? So after that what we can do is we can find biggest of these three numbers, right? So this is a very basic program. So just we can also start with that itself, right? So for that what we can do is we can have if, right? So inside if, what condition we can provide is our goal is to find biggest of three numbers, right? So for that we have to compare each number with other number, right? So first we can compare the number a with b and c, right? So if a is greater than b as well as a is greater than c, right? So when you provide multiple condition inside single if, you should use the operator ampersand, right, which is and symbol, right? And you have to use a bracket for whole condition, right? So here the first condition is a is greater than b, the second condition is a is greater than c. So we have combined this two condition using ampersand symbol, and finally the whole condition is inside a single bracket, right? So at this step what the compiler will check is, it will check the value of a with b and a with c, right? So if this condition is true, it will print like a is a bigger, right? A is bigger, right? So after that what we can do is, so here there are two possible conditions, right? One is we can check b with a and b with c, right? This is one choice. Another choice is we can give the condition b is greater than c, right? So out of these, when you provide these two options of condition, your code will work perfectly. But the thing is, just have a look at our program. In the previous condition itself, we have checked the value of a with b as well as c, right? So in our else condition, we don't have any need to again check b with a, right? So that is, we don't have to check b is greater than a and b is greater than c, right? So just we can provide the condition as b greater than c, right? So if this is true, so it will print b is bigger, right? So now we have checked a with b and a with c, right? And b with c, right? So that is, we have checked and compared each value, right? So if any of these two conditions fails, so obviously c value will be greater, right? So system dot out dot println, right? C is bigger. So this is a simple program using Java for finding the biggest of three numbers, right? For that we have used the else if construct, right? So here in the first if, we have compared the values of a and c, that is a with b and c variables. In the else if condition we have compared the values b and c. So if these two conditions fails, obviously the value c will be the biggest value, right? So now run your program. So here the compiler is waiting for the user to provide some value. So I am giving as 25. Then it is asking for enter value for B. Let the value of B be 35, and it is asking for C. So let the value of C be 15. So here our output is B is bigger, which is right? So this is about creating an if construct using Java, right? So when you see this program clearly, the syntax of if construct is not changed, right? Only the logic what we are going to provide will change, and some printing statement will change, right? So this is all about your if statement, and we can move on to switch case, right? So in switch case, what we can do is, so the syntax for switch is switch off expression, right? So switch off, I am giving it as days, right? So let the variable be days, right? So one more thing to note is, so I am just undoing my actions. Yes, so here if I am writing int a, b, c, so I have created 3 variables of integer type, right? So when I read value from the user inside a main function for these 3 variables, it is showing us an error, right? So just hover on this error icon and read the error. So the error is non-static variable a cannot be referenced from a static context, right? Just hover on this line, again the same error. On C also we are getting same error, right? So just make this switch as command line. So the reason for this error is, we didn't see about static keyword, but I have explained this in our previous video itself, right? The reason is static is a keyword we can use for functions as well as for variables, right? So what the variable, that is what the static variable will do is, if you are creating a variable with static modifier, it will automatically get initialized to 0, right? So if the developer has not provided any value for that variable, right? Similarly, what the static function will do is, there is no need to call the static function using an object, right? So you can call the static function just by using its name. So this is about your keyword static for variable as well as function, right? So one more thing to note here is, if you are having a variable of static type, it should be used only inside a static function, right? Similarly, a static function should not contain any non-static members, right? So clearly note this, right? If you are having static variable, it can only be used in static function only. Non-static function cannot have static variables inside it. This is one case. Another one is vice versa of this, which is static function should contain only static members, right? So these are some golden rules of Java. Not only Java, golden rules of programming, right? So here we have using our coding inside our main function, which is static by default. So I am making this variable as static, right? So let's move on to creating switch case. For switch case, what scenario I am going to use is, I am going to print a days based on the input value given by the user, right? So for that, we can read only a single number from user, and based on that number we can predict whether the day is Sunday or Monday or any other days, right? So the syntax of switch case is switch of expression. So here expression is nothing but your variable, right? So right, so this is about base syntax of switch case. In that we can have n number of cases. So if the case is 1, that is the input value entered by user is 1, we can print it as Monday. So every case should be followed by a break statement so that your compiler doesn't loop back in single case, right? So another case 2, system.out.println of Tuesday. So similarly you can have n number of cases. For days you can have up to 7 cases. After that we can have default. So the default block will work when any of the cases fails, right? So as far as now I'm going to have only 2 cases. After that I'm having default. So inside default we can print it as invalid choice, right? So it is up to you to have a break statement for default, right? So now I'm saving this and running my program. So just enter some value. I'm giving it as my invalid choice, right? Because we are having only 2 cases here. So I'm again running this and providing the value as 2. It is displaying as Tuesday, right? So in this way you can use switch statement in Java, right? So let's move on to looping statement, right? So the basic looping construct available in programming language are do while loop and for loop, right? So we can have a demonstration of these 3 loops using a single program, right? So just remove this. So we can have multiplication table as our output, right? So for creating a multiplication table we need 3 input from the user, right? We need 2 input from user. Another one is we have to create an output variable using the input variable provided by the user, right? So the 2 input variables are, one is the multiplication table, that is for which table we have to create a series, right? That is one thing. And the limit of your table, right? So let it be 10 or let it be 20, right? So from starting from 1 to 10 or starting from 1 to 20, that n limit we have to read from the user. For that we can have variable as, so an n limit. Another one is let the variable be yes, so which is nothing but the exact multiplication table, right? So another one is output, right? So here we are having 3 variables, L, N, S and R, right? So here I am going to read end limit from the user, right? So n is equal to s dot next into. So enter value for n. So another one variable yes. Enter the number for which you have to create a multiplication table, right? So we can use the same object to read the value. So which is s. So we are already having an object s. So we can rename this as t. So t is equal to s dot next into, right? So now we have to calculate the multiplication table, right? So I want to start the multiplication table from the value 1. So if the user enters the value for the table as 5, we have to create the multiplication table of 5, right? So our output should be like 1 into 5 is equal to 5. So up to 10 or up to 20, so up to the n limit provided by the user, we have to create a series, right? So for that I am going to create a loop. So now I am going to create a while loop, right? So while condition is I less than n. So where n is a value provided by the user and I is a variable that we have created for initialization. Static int I is equal to 1. Right? So if I is less than n, we can print the multiplication table. So to print the multiplication table, create a pattern like, so first, so how our output should look like is 1. For example, if the user is, if the user want to have the table of 5, our output should be 1 into 5 is equal to 5. So in the same pattern, it should be repeated for the n value, right? So here what I am going to do is, so here 1 is nothing but the initialization value, which is our I variable. So we have initialized the variable I to 1. So I, after that I am going to print this particular character asterisk. So in Java, to combine your variables and strings, we should use the operator plus, right? After that I am going to use the operator asterisk in double quotes, right? After that I am going to have the variable 1, our output should be 1 into 5. That this 5 is a variable this 5 is a value for the variable t, right? That is the specific table, that is the specific number for which we are going to create a table, right? So here 1 into 5 should come here, so which is our variable t. So here our output will look like 1 into 5. After that we should use this equal to symbol, so that again provide plus operator and equal symbol inside a double quotes. So again provide your plus operator and use the variable or. So before that we have to calculate the value for or, which is nothing but 1 into 5, that is I into t, right? So after providing the first line 1 into 5 is equal to 5, we have to increment the value of I, so that it gets incremented and printed, right? So now run your program. So it is asking us for the end limit, right? I am giving the end limit as 10 and I want to print the 5 table. So here our output is 1 into 5 is equal to 5 and it has come up to the value 9. So since we have used the condition I is less than 9, so if I am providing I less than or equal to n, so it will be printed up to 10. So here I have given the end limit as 5 and I am going to print the multiplication table of 10. So it is coming as 1 into 10 equal to 10 up to 5 into 10 is equal to 50, right? So in this way you can use the while loop. So we can write the same program in do while as well as in for loop, right? So how to make this while loop as do while is, instead of while change it as do. So here I am going to provide the condition. So I is less than or equal to a semicolon, right? So now run this program, we will get the same output, right? So I am giving the end limit as 10 and my table is 5. So 10 into 5 is equal to 50, right? So the difference between while and do while is, while loop is an entry check loop which checks the condition even before executing, right? Whereas do while is exit check loop. It will check the condition after printing, right? So that is, your do while loop will get executed at least once even if the condition is false, right? So this is about your do while loop, and we can change this program into for loop as well. For creating a for loop, so for keyword should be used. After that your initialization should be there, I is equal to 1. So as your for loop itself is having a space for initialization, we can skip initialization at the stop. Just we have declared the variable int I itself, right? So after that we can provide a condition here, which is I is less than or equal to n, and we can have our incrementation segment. Just remove this while condition. Now run your program. Again we will get the same output. I am giving the end limit as 10 and I want to print the table for 5. So we are getting the same output here also, right? The execution of for loop will be like, it will execute the initialization statement first. After that, it will check the condition given. After that, once the condition is true, it will execute the body of the loop. After executing the body of the loop for one time, it will go back to the incrementation or decrementation segment. After incrementing or decrementing, it will again test the condition. After checking the condition, it will execute the body of the loop. So this process will be repeated until the given condition is true. So here this initialization segment will be executed only once, right? So this is the working flow of your for loop, right? So for any kind of scenario, we can have any kind of loops, right? So there is no limitation for using any of the loops here. So this is all about your looping statements in Java, right? Let's move on to creating methods in Java. So here methods are nothing but functions, right? So functions is literally a building blocks of your program which will promote reusability, right? As I told in previous sessions itself, so if you want to reuse certain functionality, that is if you want to repeat a certain functionality that you have been performed before, so you need not to repeat the code. Instead, you can create such kind of scenarios that will occur repeatedly inside a block called function, and whenever you want to use that particular functionality, you can call that specific function, right? So here the types of functions are no argumented function and argumented function. So we can otherwise call it as parameterized or non-parameterized function. So let's see how to create a functions in Java, right? So just remove these looping construct. So to create a function, we should use the syntax return type followed by your function name, right? So here I'm creating function inside a function, which is not possible. So we can have our function inside our class. The syntax of function is return type followed by your function name, right? So the convention followed by Java for creating a function name is the first letter of your function should be in smaller case and the first letter of subsequent term should be capitalized, right? So this is the convention followed by Java for creating a function name, right? So this is just about creating a function. So return type followed by your function name. So in this function we have just created, we don't have any parameters, right? So this kind of function can be called as non-parameterized function or non-argumented function, right? So if you want to create an argumented function, so we can have any parameters like int a, or these parameter can be of any type, right? So this is a way of creating a simple function in Java, right? So here we can write anything we want, right? So some printf statement like non-argumented function, right? So here argumented function. So in this particular program we are having two functions. One is non-argumented and argumented function, right? So if we want to have these lines inside your function, it is possible to have it, right? So system.out.println of non-argumented function. After that we have prompted the user to enter some values, right? So these are nothing but the values we have read from the user for creating the multiplication table, right? So let the values be there and we can call the functions, right? So here we have created our function, right? In order for the function to be executed, we need to call the function, right? So to call a function, we need to create an object, right? Which is nothing but instantiating your class. So to instantiate a class, that is to create an object, the syntax is class name followed by object name equal to new class name of, right? So in this way we can create the object. So with this syntax we can create object for our class. Our class name is session2, right? So session2 s2 is equal to new session2 of, right? So where s2 is a user defined object. So using this object we can call the functions, right? So one is a non-argumented function, another one is argumented function, right? So while creating or calling your functions, your prototype should be matched, right? So first we have called the function name of which is a non-argumented function, so no issues with that line, right? So in the second line we have called the function func of int a, right? So this particular function is having a argument, right? That is, it is having a parameter int a, right? So I have to provide values of integer type, right? So if I am having another one value of type float, I should give a value as 7.8f, right? So in this way I should call the parameterized function. So while calling the function, ensure that your calling statement matches the prototype of your function, right? So this is a way of creating functions in Java, right? If you have any queries on that, kindly post your queries in comment section. I will respond to your queries, right? So one more thing about function is we can have function overloading also, which is we can have multiple functions in a similar name, right? So we can learn about function overloading when we learn about polymorphism. So polymorphism is an interesting concept of object-oriented programming. In that concept I will explain about function overloading, right? So another one topic we have that to complete in this series is constructor, right? Constructor is also a function whose name is similar to that class name, right? So here our class name is session2, right? So we can create a constructor like session2 of, right? So this constructor will not have any return type as your function. So the difference between constructor and your function is that constructor will not have a return type, whereas your function should have a return type. And one more thing is that constructor name should be similar to your class name, right? So whereas your function name can be anything, right? So in order for the function to be executed, we have to call the function, whereas there is no need of explicit calling to a constructor. That is, we don't have to call the constructor. So the constructor will be called automatically when we create an object itself, right? So inside this constructor, system.out.println of no argument or default constructor, right? So after that we can have one parameterized constructor, as we have created a parameterized function. So to create a parameterized constructor, we can have any kind of parameter inside that, right? So here we have two constructors. One is session2 of, that is a default constructor which is no argumented constructor. Another one is argumented constructor, right? So I am going to run this program. Let's see how our output comes, right? So here clearly watch your program. Our output is default constructor no argumented function, right? So here the starting point for the execution of your program is main function, right? In this main function we have a line called session2 s2 is equal to new session2 of, which is nothing but object creation, right? I had told you that the constructor will be called automatically whenever an object is created. So when the compiler executes this particular line of object creation, the constructor will get called automatically, so that our first line of our output is default constructor, which we have given inside the constructor, right? However, we are also having another one constructor, right? So though we have not given any value inside that, so if we give certain values like some printf statement, so it will not be executed here. The reason is just I am closing this run and I am going to rerun this function, right? Program, right? So I have cancelled that. So I am again running this program. So again our output is same, right? So our no argumented constructor is executed, whereas this constructor is not executed when we created an object, right? The reason is the prototype of this object doesn't match our parameterized constructor. So if I am creating another one object like s3 is equal to session2 of 2, 5. So I am again stopping this run and I am going to rerun the program. So here our class name is session2, right? So now run your program. So our output will be default constructor, augmented constructor, right? So constructor will be called automatically while the object is created, but that object should match the prototype of your constructor. If you are having parameterized constructor, you should create object with some parameters, right? Similar to a function, right? So after that, non-argumented function is there. Inside a non-argumented function, we have prompted the user to enter some value, right? So here enter some value. So again augmented function gets executed, right? So this is a basic difference between your constructor and functions, right? So here we have created two constructor, right? So this can be called as constructor overloading. That is, the constructor name is same. These two constructor differs by the type and number of argument, right? So here one constructor is having no argument, right? Whereas our second constructor is having two argument. So constructor overloading is nothing but constructor with same name but different type of arguments, right? So this is in the case of also function overloading. So when we can see two functions are overloaded means if there are two functions with similar name but those two functions are having different type or different number of argument inside the same class, we can say that two functions as overloaded function, right? So this is the brief intro about function overloading and constructor overloading. So I will explain about these two things in the video of polymorphism, right? So polymorphism is an interesting concept we can learn in our upcoming session, right? So with this we can conclude this session. In this session what we have learned is we have learned about decision making and looping statement in Java and how to create a function, how to instantiate a class and how to create a constructor, right? So these things we have learned in this video. If you have any queries on these sections, kindly post your queries in comment section, right? So with this we can conclude this session. Stay tuned with Hum of Programming to get live updates regarding programming. Thank you.